All right, everybody. Welcome to our fourth AMA live stream of 2019. We are here today with Harmony, none other than Harmony Protocol. Co-founder Nick White is talking with us. Yeah, so Nick is really deeply involved in a lot of the protocol research on the tech side, but a lot of the business development as well. He's a co-founder with the team. So listen, Nick, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about your background and about the team's background. Like, how did you meet the founders? How did you guys start to work on the protocol?
Sure. So I grew up actually in Hawaii, and ever since I was a little kid, I loved math and science. I loved technology, so I ended up going to Stanford, where I studied electrical engineering. And my path in electrical engineering led me into neural networks, specifically adaptive signal processing, and that kind of took me down a path of AI. And while I was doing AI, I was working at an AI incubator in Hong Kong called Zeroth AI, and we coach companies from all over the world and help them develop their projects. And so after about a year and a half at Zeroth, I decided that I wanted to, jump ship and make the transition to blockchain. And so around that time, I also went to a blockchain dinner in Shenzhen, which is near Hong Kong. And Stephen, he's actually originally from Hong Kong, the founder of Harmony. And he and I met at that dinner. We discussed a lot of things. We both decided that actually of the different challenges facing blockchain as a new technology platform, one of the biggest ones was scalability. And in order for blockchains to really realize their huge potential to bring more equality, more transparency, more efficiency to the global economy, we needed to solve that problem.
Okay, so what time period was that where you were starting to work with Stephen and meet the rest of the team? Was that 2017, back in 2015? Like when exactly was that happening?
Harmony officially formed around mid 2018. That's when we raised our seed round, and that's when everyone kind of left their jobs. Most people were already working in their current positions at Google or other companies, and then we left our jobs and came full time into Harmony.
So Harmony's main goal is open consensus for 10 billion people, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I was just wondering what that means to you.
Yeah. So open consensus for 10 billion people comes from this idea that, in 2050, people have projected that the world population will level out at around, give or take 10 billion people. Mm-hmm. And we imagine in that future world in 2050 that blockchain will play a major role in facilitating trade and finance and the internet and all kinds of, it'll be a key component to the global economy. We need to design a blockchain that's not just suitable for right now. So our vision is to design a blockchain that aspires to scale to that level, because you need to set the infrastructure right from the very beginning in order to get there in the long range. It's more than just open consensus for 10 billion people. Also, that's kind of confusing. It can be a little technical. When we say open consensus, what we mean is sort of like trust. Well, we say now a little bit more. Kind of our tagline is transitioning towards scaling trust to billions of people. And so what that means, like, blockchain is sort of a trust machine. It's a way of enabling people who may not know each other to come together and coordinate and collaborate. We're all dreamers, or we're real believers, and that's why I love working on this team, because I feel like I get to be surrounded by such positive energy and people who are so committed that I feel like I'm really part of something bigger than anything I've worked on in the past. And it's just, there's something about that, having that vision and having that aspiration to do something great, not just for yourself, but for the world, that really resonates here on our team.
If you're looking at Bitcoin and Ethereum's throughput issues, what made your team, what made Stephen really confident that they could solve some of those problems with some tech that's already being used, and not some of the tech that these teams are talking about building in the next couple of years?
It's a combination of just the practical experience of having done it on the other side, combined with the fact that there's also a lot of aspects that have been overlooked in the discussion, and are now kind of becoming more popular and more discussed in the technical community and blockchain. But one of the big ones, for example, was networking. That very few people had discussed how networking was a really major bottleneck for blockchains, because it's not just about like, oh, how fast can your consensus protocol be, right? Because in theory, your consensus protocol can, minimize or optimize the amount of communication, but then it's even like, well, then how do you propagate all those transactions? How do you get all those blocks synced across the whole network? So there's a lot of things that people were kind of overlooking because they were only looking at the top layer of the stack, and we wanted to take it lower, right? And so we're really keen on networking and leveraging all the new research and some of the best techniques. And then I think another thing, which is a little bit longer term, that people hadn't really discussed too much, is our focus on systems. So in the long range, I think a key optimization for any blockchain protocol will be developing a mission-specific kernel for the nodes that are running the consensus algorithms, and that can really parallelize the throughput and achieve more speed and more efficiency. So it's a combination of basically leveraging practical engineering with sort of the best new research, and looking in places where people haven't really thought that those things apply to blockchain. There's a lot of things that already exist and are battle tested, maybe not in blockchain, but they've been proven in other industries. And how can we take each of those components and as a recipe kind of combine them together and create something that's really fast and really scalable?
So I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about where you're at currently on the existing roadmap and where the project is planned to be in the next year.
So I would say we've built a lot of the back end consensus. There's still some key features to implement. You can check out our GitHub. We're open source, so you can see where we are. And we're planning to basically release more features every month, the 15th of every month, until June, when we plan to launch the mainnet.
There will be opportunities for other nodes in the future, like especially during the mainnet and after the mainnet release, for somebody to just join the network. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, at the very least, people will be able to acquire enough tokens to stake on their own and run a node. We've also considered doing something along the lines of what we call a node drop, which is essentially we have to still work out the details, but it's sort of like an airdrop. But imagine rather than airdropping because you liked us on Twitter or something or followed us, it's we will kind of proxy stake for you, so you get to run a node. And by running a node, you not only earn the rewards, but eventually earn enough tokens to continue staking and running a miner into the future. So it's sort of like you earn your way into the protocol that way, without capital up front. Traditional airdrops never really made sense to me in terms of it just felt like you're giving away tokens to people who I mean, they've done something, but it's not really, they haven't really added value to the network. It seems more for show. And this node drop is you're really adding value. You're supporting the network with by processing transactions and helping us increase our throughput, increasing our security. So that's you really have proven to us that you care and you deserve tokens in return for that.
Why don't we get Cryptocopia involved here? So next up, Yicky is asking, do we really need another blockchain coin? I mean, 2017, 2018 saw a lot of fundraising, and I know we haven't talked about fundraising, but I guess every project is looked at a little bit more critically after the rise and fall of prices, than before. So what are your guys' strengths? Like, what are you going to do that's going to see Harmony outlive, the competition?
And I think, again, going back to Harmony's primary vision, we're trying to deliver scalability, right? And if we are going to see another wave of crypto, if we're going to see real adoption, like meaningful adoption, we need to solve that problem. The scaling blockchain is an extremely, extremely difficult problem. And so it's like, I wouldn't want to rest and it's so important. It's such an important problem to solve that I wouldn't want to rest that on any one given project, even 10. I honestly think there's more room for more good projects to try to solve this problem than there are that exist right now. The thing is that we're a team who has really built large-scale infrastructure before at large tech companies. So this is something that's kind of baked into our DNA. We sort of are trying to raise the bar in terms of like how well blockchains are built.
Oh my God, I love this handle. Insane Ooze. Insane Ooze wants to know how you calculated the on-chain speed.
There aren't really concrete metrics for how to measure a blockchain's performance. And I don't see anyone kind of converging on a set of metrics anytime soon. So the proxies that people use is basically transactions per second. But I don't really think that doesn't contain enough information to really tell you about how the blockchain really operates. Because just transactions per second tells you nothing about the cost, tells you nothing about the latency, tells you nothing about the security. There's so many other trade-offs that you have to make that transactions per second themselves are not very useful. In terms of measuring it, in our previous test nets, we were able to achieve 10,000, and the next one we did 118,000 transactions per second, and that was all measured basically by how many transactions are validated in a given span of time. And then the latency, I think we were at like 1 minute latency, which is still like pretty late, but that's basically from the time the transaction is sent in to the time that it appears in a validated block. So, I mean, those numbers are also like quite old now, and we're constantly improving on that. Our new adaptive IDA algorithm syncs the blocks in a matter of seconds. So hopefully our latency will come down like a lot.
Yiki is asking how you guys are going to ramp up to 100,000 nodes for the mainnet in mid-2019. I think you might have mentioned June.
Yeah, so I don't think so. At the outset, we don't want to have 100,000 nodes on the mainnet. I think that's a little bit unrealistic, and it'd be really expensive. I mean, it'd be awesome because we'd have a lot of throughput and we could support a lot of applications. But I don't imagine. I mean, even now, there's not a need for a blockchain that it has hundreds of thousands of TPS, which would, I think, if our numbers from our previous testnet are any kind of guidance. If we had 100,000 nodes, we would have around 250,000 transactions per second, and this is our testnet from earlier. I think we probably sped up from then. So there's no I don't see anyone using. I don't know what kind of use case. That's like 5 visas, so I don't see a need for that level of scale yet. But the idea is that eventually we want to get there again. It's sort of the same with the 10 million transactions per second. It's more like long term, this is the kind of scale we want to reach.
One last quick question from Cryptocopia. We were just wondering if you see Zilliqa as your main competitor and how Harmony is better.
I think our design is fundamentally more robust and more scalable than Zilliqa's. First of all, they're doing proof of work, which I think has a lot of drawbacks we discussed. I really respect Zilliqa, and in fact, they've done a lot of very fundamental, great research. But I think in the end, we are building sort of a little bit. We've gone a little bit deeper into the problem and solved some of the things that I think they didn't really tackle. And so for that reason, I think we will be more scalable and probably more cost effective and more secure than them when we launch.
Nick, that concludes our AMA. Cryptocopia, we're going to be doing this once a week. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. So, we'll be announcing, every week who we have upcoming with our AMA series. Nick, it's been a pleasure. Thank you again for taking the time out, and we'll make sure to watch what you guys are up to.
Well, Mike, thank you so much. It's also been a pleasure for me, and thank you to the whole Cryptocopia community. Thank you for all your great questions. I hope that you learned a little bit about Harmony, and we would love to continue the conversation and teach you more. And hopefully, one day you can contribute to Harmony itself. So again, it's been my pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you guys on our Discord.
All right. See you, Nick. Thanks again.
Cheers. Thanks, Mike.